Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Unlimited. Today, we are talking about building confidence in yourself with boudoir photography. We've had several episodes recently where we've been talking about this idea of connecting to your body, loving your body, relating to your body, taking care of your body, and all sorts of fun stuff like that, as well as building into the world and cutting through all of the noise and creating something that is yours, that comes from you, that springs forth from a sense of self. And this ties a lot to a sense of self-confidence and developing that sense of confidence. So I've invited my friend Liz Hansen, who is the owner and photographer at Chicago Boudoir Photography in Winnetka, Illinois, to join me for this conversation. Boudoir is an empowering photoshoot experience that she believes every woman should experience at least once in her lifetime. She lives with her husband, 2 young daughters, and their dog, Quarantina. So you can guess when they got this dog. Liz and I talk about things like what is boudoir photography, first and foremost, the difference between sexualization and embodiment, which gets mucked up with a lot of these stories that we have in our society around the over-sexualization of women and also are being told not to be sexual. There's a whole thing in feminist theory around the idea of the male gaze, which is the act of depicting women and the world in the visual arts and in literature from a masculine heterosexual perspective that presents and represents women as sexual objects for the pleasure of the heterosexual male viewer. If you're curious about that concept, there is a great YouTube video put together by a college student that compares the depictions of Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad, which was done by a male director, and Birds of Prey, which was done by a female director. I'll have a link to that in the show notes, which can help with conceptualizing some of the dynamics that we personally experience. And I felt like we had to dig into that a little bit, given that we're talking about a photographic medium. So Liz and I explore this from an individual level and the internalization of some of those narratives and how we can step out of that using our own gaze and a new perspective on ourselves. We talk about self-talk awareness, about building a sense of confidence in ourselves in the various ways, not just in photography, but also in our work in the world, the power of owning your mistakes, which also builds confidence, hint, hint, and the female empowerment ripple effect, and so much more. I am thrilled to share this conversation with you. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey there, I'm Valerie Friedlander, Certified Life Business Alignment Coach, and this is Unlimited. This podcast bridges the individual and the societal, scientific and spiritual, positive and negative, nerdy and no, there's just a lot of nerdy. Come on board and let's unlock a life that's as badass as you are. Liz, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I would love for you to share a little bit about you and how you got into doing boudoir photography.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Liz Hansen and I own Chicago Boudoir Photography. If you haven't heard of boudoir, boudoir is a Victoria's Secret style photo shoot experience for the everyday woman. And what I do there is women come to me to have a luxury experience and get some beautiful pictures taken. Many of the women that come to my studio go home with an album or prints to remind them of the experience and how beautiful they are. Also, I have gift items, digital images. And my mission at the Boudoir Studio is to create beautiful images, but also to empower women to feel confident, to show up in life in a way that is fully them and maybe see themselves in a light that they haven't seen themselves before. So I got into this about 7 or 8 years ago. I did a boudoir photo shoot for myself, for my husband, for a gift. And I was blown away by the experience and what it did for me. I was so nervous going in. I'd never done anything like that. I, like many women, didn't feel very comfortable in my own skin, especially not in front of a camera. But I did the shoot. I had a really fun time. I loved the pictures. I gave the album to my husband, and he said to me, the words he said to me were, "This is the most meaningful gift anyone has ever given me." And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yes, it's a gift only you could give. I can tell that you really stepped out of your comfort zone to do this." And in the months following that photo shoot, I had the experience of feeling more confident, feeling more alive in my body and in my relationship with my husband. And so I wanted to share that with other women.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I think about, I talk a lot about perspective, and seeing things from different perspectives can be really empowering because you see more options. It opens up the possibilities. You become able to see more unlimited possibilities. And it makes sense to me that seeing yourself through the lens of the camera in this really sexy, empowered way, that would be like, oh, who's that? Like, oh, I'm that person. That's me. Because we don't think of ourselves that way.
Yeah, a lot of women do have trouble viewing themselves in that way. But when they see the picture on the screen, they're like, well, that is me. I guess that is a side of myself that is possible. And I guess that's what I want to show people, that like, no matter who you are, no matter what age you are, what size, what shape you are, I can make you look fabulous on camera and show you that. I can turn that mirror on you and show you that. And maybe it's a side of yourself you've never experienced or never seen. And that can be beautiful and empowering.
Yeah. I think about that idea of the lens that we see ourselves through, and being able to recognize our sexiness, and that it's so difficult in this world where we're over sexualized and also told that we should not be sexual, and trying to exist in that space, stepping outside of all of that noise and stepping into our own body and our own power. What does that look like for you when you think about doing boudoir in the context of the world that we live in?
Yeah, and this is a question I get a lot too. I mean, I have some people say to me, isn't this pornography? Isn't this exploitation in some way? And first off, I always say to people, if you look at my website and you think that's pornography, maybe you haven't seen much pornography, because what I do is not, okay, pornography as a genre exploits and is highly sexualized. Boudoir as a genre is supposed to be artistic and empowering, and that's the difference. So first off is who the intended audience is for, right? So pornography is intended to be commercialized and consumed by a wide audience, right? Boudoir, on the other hand, is intended to be an empowering experience that creates artistic images that are not actually, in my opinion, explicitly sexual. I don't actually think that what I do is sexual in that way. So I love the beauty of the body. I love the power of the female shape and form, but I don't actually view what I do as being inherently sexually oriented, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also the images I create are not for commercial usage. In fact, if you come to me and you want commercial images, I don't produce them. I'll send you somewhere else for a place that does that. And intended for a small audience, right? So, I mean, yes, in the sense, if you view any portrayal of the naked body or of a lot of skin as pornography, I guess you could lump me in with that, but I see it as very different.
Yeah. Well, and that narrative really ties to that over-sexualization of our bodies. And there's a lot of internalization of those stories that it's interesting to see come out, and like the reactions. I'm curious, what are some of your favorite reactions? Like you shared about like your experience doing this for yourself and being able to share that as a very beautiful, intimate connection piece, both empowering for you and a gift in that this is that side of me to share with your spouse. What reactions have you seen from other women that you photographed that you were like, this is why I do what I do?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things about my studio is I have women from all walks of life that come into this studio, right? So I've had stay-at-home moms, I've had physicians, rabbis. I had a pastor's wife in not too long ago. I have women in their 20s, women in their 50s. I've had a 69-year-old woman come to do this. I have women who, of all shapes and sizes, of all professions, all walks of life. And what that tells me is that there's something like very universal about the experience of living in a human body, right? We all are walking around this earth embodied in a human body, and our spirit and our body interact in a way that is sometimes disconnected, right? So what I love at the studio is when someone who has kind of experience where they feel more at home in their body and more power and confidence in that body that they're in, right? So so the way that I work at the studio is you come in, you get your hair and makeup done. I have a beauty team that can do either like supernatural makeup or very glam makeup, whatever you want. Then we do the photo shoot. I photograph women on like 6 to 8 different sets. And then right after the shoot, before they even leave the studio, they get to see a slideshow of their pictures. And that to me is an important part of the process, because right there, while we're in the energy of the shoot, they get to see the pictures, and they're not photoshopped yet, but they already look great. If you want photoshopping or retouching, I do offer that. But the pictures you see the same day it's just you. And it's how I took the pictures. And a lot of times women see those pictures and they say, I know I was here taking those pictures. I know that's me, but I can't believe that it's me. And pulling together that this is me and I can't believe that it's me. That's when we see that connection between your own body and your own spirit. And that's kind of where you come into appreciating that embodied moment. Does that make sense? So
yeah, absolutely. And actually this is audio, but what I just saw you do, I'm curious if you see a reflection with your clients as you said that you kind of pulled back and your shoulders went back and you were like, oh my gosh, like this expansiveness kind of took in. And one of the things I think a lot about, I actually had it come up with a client recently about like what she was wearing had this impact on how confident she felt. And as a costume designer in a past life, that makes sense. Like the what you wear can really gives you that space of the character that you're taking on. And in this way, we're talking about like taking on your own self, like actually slipping into your own skin and how you hold your body. Like we talk about power stances. And that was one of the things that I was chatting about with this client of like how you stand really communicates to your brain that like you're more confident, that you are more you are more self-possessed. And I wonder, do you see a shift in the way someone's holding themselves when they take a look at what they have created, who they are?
I love what you said about like being embodied in your own self and taking on like the costume of your own body. Like that is, to me, that's powerful. Like I'm going to wear my own body in a way that is right for me, and I'm going to be confident in that costume. And it's not a costume, that's not the right word, but do you know what I'm saying when you were saying
it's like that spirit, like the idea that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. It's like our spirit is wearing the body, and like are we actually like wearing our body in like a way that this is ours and owning it?
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that idea. And I mean, boudoir is one afternoon. It's one experience. This is part of a process that we all go through to try to live our lives in these bodies. But I had an experience myself where I felt transformed by the photo shoot experience. So I know that some women also feel that in just an afternoon. You know what I'm saying? So I have women who come in for lots of reasons. I have some women who come in specifically to create a gift for a partner, right? So that might be a boudoir album to give on the wedding day or on an anniversary or a birthday. I also have some women who come in and they say, I just want to do this for me. And I think both, whether you're doing it for yourself or for a gift for a partner, it can be the same powerful experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's It's something that I have not done one yet. I know you're like, I see you. Um, but it very much is something that I look at and I'm like, that's amazing. Like even just thinking about, oh, that's something that I could do. It's like, ooh, there's a connection there of again feeling in my own skin, feeling comfortable in my own skin, and to have someone. So often we look in the mirror, and I've had this come up with clients too, of like that idea of looking in the mirror and going, like, what is your thought? Like, how are you talking to yourself when you see yourself in the mirror? And this distortion of the way we see ourselves, because it can depend on the day. If I'm having a crappy day and I look in the mirror, I might say some really nasty things to myself, not necessarily in words, but like the energy is there, versus if I'm having a better day where maybe I moved my body and I'm building that relationship where I can be like, hey, how you doing? And I feel like that seeing yourself mirrored through your camera going, oh, how you doing? Like that you're developing a different kind of relationship, a more affectionate relationship with yourself in that conversation that you have?
Yeah, let me tell you about two things that I do in the studio to try to nurture that. So the first thing is when I have a woman in hair and makeup, I give them a 3x5 card. And what I have them do is I have them write something on that 3x5 card that is either a statement of why they were there or what they want to feel that day. So people write on the card things like, I am enough, or cheers to 40 more years, or I am strong and powerful, or my past does not define me. Okay. Something like that. So they write a statement on a 3x5 card. And then what I do is I take a picture of them holding that card in the studio. And a lot of women loved putting that card as like the first picture in their album or the last picture in the album, because that defines kind of why they showed up. Like, why did they decide to do this shoot? What was it that they really wanted to do or feel? And when you write that on a card and then take a picture of yourself holding it, it kind of cements it, right? It kind of creates a tangible reminder of it, right? So life is fleeting. The day at the studio is going to be fleeting, but what we create is that kind of permanent reminder in the print or the album that you can go back to time and time again to relive the confident moment that you have when you are holding that motto in your hand.
Oh my gosh. So I'm actually getting kind of choked up. So I don't know if it's that I'm like PMSing or what, but like, that's just like, that's so powerful and so special to, there's studies, and I don't remember if there are some of the ones that were debunked or whatever, but I think they weren't, but where people put labels on water, and the shape of the molecules changed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I believe strongly in the idea that what you put out into your mind and into the universe shapes your reality, right? So if you are constantly saying to yourself, I'm not enough, I am ugly, I'm not worthy because I weigh X amount, I am this, this will truly affect how you show up in the world. Mm-hmm. And then your reality will be created by those thoughts, right? So if you can start by shaping your own thoughts, which in the end is one of the only things we have control over anyway, if you can shape those thoughts to being more empowering and more confidence building, then you will actually have more confidence and empowering experiences in your life, right? So it will follow if you can manage to think thoughts. So like, for example, it's hard to jump from I hate my body to I love my body, right? Yeah. That is a leap that your brain might not be able to make. But if you can take the leap from I hate my body to I have a body and my body allows me to do things, that leap alone from instead of the negative I hate my body to the neutral I have a body, this will, in my opinion, change how you show up in the world and then your experience in your body, right? And then after a few months, if you get comfortable with I have a body where you started, maybe you can start saying, I have a body that does great things for me. Start moving from neutral to positive, right? Mm-hmm. And this is regardless of how your body looks, right? So like, it does not matter. If you can get your brain to start believing positive things about your body, regardless of how it looks, then you will start to appreciate more, in my opinion, show up differently, have different experiences in your body.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's one of the big things that will come up of that building the relationship. Maybe you've had a toxic relationship with your body, being able to even just develop a healthier one, like rather than looking in the mirror and going, oh, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous. If you're not actually, you can say the words, but if the energy behind it is like, that's bullshit, like you're not going to, it's not going to do anything for you. It's the same thing as like that idea of positive thinking. If you're just ignoring the things that are going on, and like, you're not going to create realistic stepping stones, like you were saying, to building something different. You're just going to be like, I'm just going to shove you in the closet and ignore you, like, the elephant in the room. But to be able to look at yourself and go, hey, what do you need today? Like if you walk down the street and you're like, ew, but you say hi, people pick up that energy and so to be able to go, how are you? What do you need today? And like actually reach out and connect, like, hey, you exist. Oh my gosh, you exist. I have a body. You exist. That matters. It matters that you exist. That is huge, even though it's a small shift. We don't have to climb the mountain first. We can actually start with just that one step. And that's just very cool.
Yeah. The second thing that I was going to tell you that I do in the studio to help nudge people in this direction is I have a rule that you can't say anything negative about yourself while you're in the studio. And I go over this with people when they come in, and it's surprising how many times they catch themselves while they're at the studio. They're about to say like, oh, I don't like my stomach or whatever. And they're like, oh, I'm not supposed to say anything negative about myself while I'm here. I'm like, that's right. But it's interesting to note, if I hadn't set that ground rule, how many times would you have said, like if I hadn't said the ground rule, would you have said 20 negative things about yourself this hour while you were here? 40, and when people start to kind of log how often they have negative self-talk about their bodies, it is eye-opening. And I also allow people, I say, for example, if there's something you don't like about your body or a picture you don't like, we can talk about it, but we're not going to dwell on the negative. So you can say, hey, that's not a picture I would probably select to put in my album. Fine, we move right on. But we're not going to sit there and say, I'm not going to pick that picture because I don't like my tummy and I don't like this and I don't like that. We're not, there are ways to acknowledge parts of yourself without berating yourself.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's that difference between digging in and like dissecting the things that you don't like versus going, I would like to do, like the focus on what you don't want versus what you do want, right? Like that's something that I'll talk about all the time when somebody comes and says, hey, I want to work with you. And I say, well, what makes you say that? And then they're like, well, I want less stress. And they talk about all the things they don't want. I'm like, well, okay, if those things weren't there, what would you have? Because that's the only way you can build and grow on that. Like you talked about that feeling that you have, and what feeling do you want to have? What's the experience like? That's what we want to focus on and build on. But I love the idea of noticing how often, because of course you don't have a loving relationship with your body if you're like realize going, oh, 20 times I was going to like beat myself up that many times. I love the tool of having somebody keep a judgment journal of how many times do you judge something as good or bad? And then you take a look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm super judgy. I didn't realize I was so judgy. But it helps you have a starting point for going, all right, I see this now. This is having an impact. What could I do differently? So yeah, those two things are super powerful to create an amazing experience. From that, building this business around this idea, I would imagine that, and I actually know, I don't just imagine, but that flows outwards, not just in the work that you do, but in the way that you do your work and how you show up as a business owner in the world. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I always say, Boudoir is my business and I love it, but my greater mission is to empower women and especially women in business. I have found such joy, frankly, in running a business and empowerment. And the personal growth in running a business has been tremendous for me as well. And I want to support other women who are interested in starting a business, running a side business, have a side hustle. So like I said, I have my boudoir studio. To complement that, I run a Facebook group, has like 9,000 local Chicago women in it. And my goal in that Facebook group is to nurture and empower women in whatever their goals are, but also specifically in business. So I, post things about issues, and I try to promote local businesses. I try to network with other local business owners, connect business owners, things like that. Because boudoir is an afternoon, but empowerment and your life is a lot bigger than that, right? And so that is my broader mission, is to empower women.
Yeah. Well, and it's an amazing group. So it's one of my favorites. So yeah.
Well, if you're listening, you like to join, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, I will have links in the show notes for you. So yeah, that we were just talking before that a lot of what you do in that moment of helping someone see themselves from a different perspective and tap into that power inside themselves that then can blossom out into the world is a lot like what I do as a coach, and helping people find that awareness shift to develop that relationship. And I love hearing these tools that you use that build on that with the stair stepping of developing that relationship. I'm like, that's so what I do. I think it's amazing. I love it so much. So what's been one of the most surprising things for you in either the boudoir work or as a business owner?
That's a good question. I opened the studio in 2018. So I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary.
Yay.
And I have my honest answer is that I've been blown away about the response that I've gotten to the service I offer. I opened the studio hoping to have a few clients a month, hoping to touch a few women's lives, hoping to, learn how to run a business. I had kind of small goals. What happened, though, has been that this has turned into a much bigger thing than I expected, bigger in my life personally and bigger as a business. So for me personally, I guess to say this more succinctly, when I started my business, I didn't view myself as an entrepreneur. I didn't view myself as a business owner. I didn't view myself as someone who could help other women or empower other women. I just viewed myself as like a girl who wanted to take some pictures and hoped it worked out. But the surprising thing is that now I feel like an entrepreneur. Now I feel like a business owner. Now I feel like people come to me for mentoring. And that, maybe this is a silly thing to say, but that has been the biggest surprise of all, that I'm actually doing a thing that some people value. Maybe that's not the right answer here, but that's the honest truth, that's the most surprising thing, that I'm booked out. I shot 200 women in 2020 during a pandemic year, and I was fully booked. I couldn't take any more people. I have 7 employees. I mentor other business owners. I have this group. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. I'm just saying that is the biggest surprise, that this actually is, I've taken on more than I expected to, in the sense that I view myself as an entrepreneur now, which I never, I guess, intended to do. So that's the honest answer. I guess a more pat answer would just be something like, oh, well, I've just been surprised at the variety of women who've come in and who've all felt empowered at the studio. Because I am sometimes surprised. Someone will walk in and I'll be like, oh, this is someone I haven't seen before. Oh, it's a psychic. Now I have a psychic in the studio. Oh, a physical therapist. Haven't had a physical therapist before. Oh, a rabbi. This is cool. Oh, a cardiac surgeon. Fantastic. So that's, every day is a surprise at the studio in that way. Every woman is unique, and I do love that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's so powerful, what you just said, in what's surprising, because so often I see in the online space, at least, women stepping in and being given all of this, just get your mindset right. Just think of yourself in this way. You have to do X, Y, and Z. And I've had several episodes that we've been talking about, like breaking through a lot of those stories of what you're supposed to be like to be able to build something, or the way you're supposed to think, or like the rules around what that looks like. And, dream big or go home or whatever. And it's like, actually, you can just allow yourself to evolve. If you're focused in where you want to grow, even just that next step of growth, and say, okay, this makes my heart sing. I'm going to step into this and see what happens. I want to bring joy to other people. Okay. then this is how I'm going to do it. And then the next thing unfolds and you lean into that. And then the next thing unfolds and you go, okay, and then you look back and go, oh, well, look at that. I was doing some painting the other day, and just for fun, because I haven't been doing face painting since the pandemic, but just on myself. And I sped it up, and because, it won't fit in a reel if the length of time that it took me to do it. And I was like, oh, at first, as I was painting, I'm like, that doesn't quite look right. And then I just added on and I tweaked it. And it's like, some of them I was like, oh, that's not. But then when I sped it up to the final result, I'm like, that looks amazing. That's like those things I see on YouTube. And I was like, oh, it's so interesting when you speed it up, when you get the montage, it looks way cooler than the actual process. You don't realize the thing that you're creating and stepping into. And I will imagine that will continue to be true.
I mean, I think the journey of owning a business is always like that. There is so much. I use the analogy all the time that it's like having a baby. Yeah. I mean, having a baby is beautiful and wonderful, but there's sleepless nights and lots of tears, and the growth is very slow. But when you look back, your child does grow up. And owning a business is like that in so many ways. Like, it is fun and exciting and exhilarating and joyful, but there are also sleepless nights and lots of tears and figuring things out and trial and error. I have made so many mistakes running my business. I mean, I look back, I have made mistakes that cost me a lot of money. I've made mistakes that made clients upset, and I tried to smooth it over. I have made bad hires. I've made all kinds of mistakes, but part of the joy of running a business is that those mistakes were all mine and all my own growth, right? So like every mistake I made, I have learned like, well, never going to do that again, and that I get to keep all that growth. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I get to own it all and keep it all. And for me, that has been like infinitely rewarding. Like, yes, there have been a lot of hard moments. Yes, I've made a lot of mistakes. Yes, I lost some money. But in the end, that means that like I get to take all of that forward with me into the future and do better going forward. And this, I mean, it's the same way with many parts of our lives. If you own your mistakes and move forward, that's really essentially what being a human is about, is trying to learn from the past, do better, live in the moment, move forward. I just didn't know that it was possible for me to go on this journey. I didn't come from a family that had any business owners at all, men or women. Before I opened my business, I didn't really know any female business owners. I mean, I saw some on TV, I saw some on the internet, but like, I didn't have any friends that were business owners, really. I just hadn't been running in those circles. I had been a stay-at-home mom for 7 years before I opened my business. And, it's hard to be what you can't see, right?
Yes.
And so for me to step into the role and put on the hat that said, I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, that was hard for me in like weird emotional ways, partially because I didn't have a role model to say like, well, I'm going to do this like Kristen did this, like I didn't have a person really like that I could look to in a lot of ways. And I'm so grateful that now I do. Now I know tons of female business owners, and they were always there. They just weren't in my orbit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But what I want to help other women do, if I can, in a small way, is show them what their possibility is. Now, it doesn't have to be business, but there are things for you available in this world. If you want something and you want to chase after it, like you can. And I wish I'd had more of that, more people saying, this could be a possibility for you. You could do this if you wanted to. You don't have to, but if you want to, it's available to you.
Yeah, that was exactly the same for me. Though I was in corporate, I didn't grow up and have people around me who were doing entrepreneurial things. It just wasn't in my reality. And you said something really powerful just now that I want to call out because it ties very much back to how this springs from the work that you do into the world. And that is, it's hard to be what you can't see. And so thank you for giving that gift to other women to show them what they have inside of themselves, what is possible for them through the lens that you can see them through that maybe they haven't been able to see themselves, both in your work as a photographer, but also in your work as a business owner. It's such a gift. So tell me, as we wrap up, what does it mean to you to be unlimited?
I have thought a lot about this. I saw that this was a question you were going to ask me. And so actually I've been thinking about this for weeks because I've been percolating on this question. And I guess the thing that I have come to a conclusion is that I myself am not unlimited. I am a very limited human with frailties, with flaws. I make a lot of mistakes. I hurt people when I don't mean to. But what is unlimited is the possibilities available to me in the universe. So if I can tap into that unlimited nature around me, there are unlimited opportunities. There's unlimited money I could earn. There are unlimited people I can meet. There is an unlimited chart of growth that I could reach. And what I want to do is tap into a little bit of that. So the way I like to view this is that there is a river of opportunity and people and money and networking and love and joy and peace. And that river is constantly flowing. My job is to step into that river and enjoy it, right? I can sit on the banks all day and I can just feel my limits and my flaws all day. But as soon as I step into that river, it will be constantly flowing. And it's my job to put a bucket into that river and enjoy it. And that's what I think is unlimited.
Oh, beautiful. So beautiful. And when you want to feel unlimited and step into that river, what song do you listen to?
There's a song, maybe you guys will think this is cheesy, but Disney put out a live action Aladdin. And there is so in the cartoon of Aladdin, Jasmine did not have a song. She didn't have her own song. I mean, she sang with
A Whole New World.
A Whole New World
Yep.
with the guy, but she didn't have her own song. So when they made the live action, they gave her a song and it's called Speechless. And I love it. And it's kind of a girl power anthem. And literally I belt that out in my car all the time. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for joining me today. It has been an amazing conversation.
I really appreciate you having me. I love talking to you too.
Check out the Chicago Boudoir website at chicago-boudoir.com and on Facebook at Chicago Boudoir, Instagram, chicago.boudoir, and Liz's Facebook group, VIP Group for Empowered Women of Chicago. All the links are in the show notes, and I will talk to you all next time. Thanks for listening. I so appreciate you being here. If you got something out of today's episode, please share it. Leave me a review, take a screenshot, and post it on social with a shout out to me. Send it to a friend or, all of the above. Want to hang out more? Join me on Instagram. Or better yet, get on my mailing list to make sure you don't miss out on anything. And remember, your possibilities are as unlimited as you are. Allow yourself to shine, my friend. The world needs your light. See you next time.